Dr. Seuss has had an influence on everyone, young and old. If you weren't read Dr. Seuss books, you've most likely read them to someone else. He loved to write children's books, but was actually scared of children because they made him nervous. His books would get children to absorb morals, but in a fun way. Because Dr. Seuss understood that children didn't like boring old Dick and Jane books that preached morals at them, he did something about it. He says about his books that these morals are never put in as morals, and kids don't read them as such. Kids gag at the sight of having morals crammed down their throats, but the moral is inherent. He based most of his books on things that were going on in his life. He said that he's subversive as hell and had always had a mistrust of adults, which is proven in his book that he published in 1937, and to think I saw it on Mulberry Street, which is about basically a fabricated story a little boy tells on his way home from school. When he wrote The Cat in the Hat, he was placed on a 225-word limit by the then director of Houghton Mifflin's Education Division. William Spalding also gave him a word list that he had to use in order to write his book. And after reading the list 40 times, he came up with the idea of The Cat in the Hat. Dr. Seuss later admitted that he had written the book with a political message in mind. He says, "The Cat in the Hat is a revolt against authority, but is ameliorated by the fact that the cat cleans everything up at the end. It is revolutionary in the fact that it goes as far as Kerensky, then stops. It doesn't go as far as Lenin." 12 years after the Lorax was written, he started to write the Butter Battle book. Brooding over the mounting Cold War with the Soviet Union, he believed that under Ronald Reagan, the nuclear war was out of control. Before he published the Butter Battle book, Before writing the Butter Battle book, Dr. Seuss questioned retired Marine Corps General Victor H. Krulak about nuclear arms, and he described the book he was writing as a little book that tries to show in humorous terms the utter futility of nuclear war. He still didn't understand why the Cold War had happened, which is why in the Butter Battle book, the Zooks and the Ukes go to such extreme measures over such a minuscule issue. In the book, the war between the Ukes and Zooks is very much like the war between America and the Soviet Union. Britannica sums it up best by saying each possessed weapons of mass destruction and was capable of annihilating the other. We see the similarities at the end of Dr. Seuss's The Butter Battle book, where Grandpa and the Zook from the other side both have an egg-like bomb, and they're going to see who's going to drop it first. The book finishes, though, with no winner. The book leaves you on a cliffhanger with no clue winner as to who won or who lost the war. Horton was a long and ongoing character created by Dr. Seuss, who first premiered in his own book, Horton Hatches the Egg. Horton Hatches the Egg helps teach children that they should finish things through if they start them. Another one of Horton's books is Horton Hears a Who. Dr. Seuss wrote Horton Hears a Who after he had visited and seen firsthand the damage the U.S. had caused in World War II. He based Horton Hears a Who off the 1912 to 1926 individualism movement of Japan. Before he went on that trip, Dr. Seuss really didn't like Asian people. He ridiculed the Japanese people, drew them as grinning menaces, stray cats, and slithering worms. So for him to make this seems to fill in a missing puzzle piece, and it makes the message 10 times more powerful. Most of Dr. Seuss's books had calm and cool morals that weren't really in your face about it. The Lorax, though, is the opposite. You know what he's trying to tell you when you read the Lorax. The book still works, though, because of the world he created around it. It was such a good message as to why we should protect our environment that a logging company even made a clapback to the book called the Truax. They even have a similar looking creature fly down and tell everybody about logging and why it's important. In the Lorax, Dr. Seuss does a good job of telling us why keeping our forests is important, and he also tells us the effects pollution have on our environment and what they do to ecosystems and animals. The Sneetches was a book about equality. It wasn't tied to a specific issue, but some people believe it's about equality for people who believe in Judaism. They believe the star-belly Sneetches have the Star of David on them. Since he was of Jewish German descent, that theory does hold weight in water. When it comes to Dr. Seuss's book, Yertle the Turtle, Judith Morgan, co-author of Dr. Seuss and Mr. Geisel, says, "I think he just got mad. He saw the growing threat in Europe and thought the Americans were not paying attention." Since he was of Jewish German descent, the threat of Adolf Hitler really hit home for him. Just like in Yertle the Turtle, Hitler showed up in many of Dr. Seuss's works, usually portraying a villain. The Dr. Seuss got, the less and less he would come out of his house. He was aging, so he decided to write a book about his old age. Only Old Once is a book meant for obsolete children. It talks about the struggles old people go through when they go to the hospital and how doctors poke and prod them and take all their money for medications. It gives insight into why old people never want to go into nursing homes. Dr. Seuss also wrote a book to tell children how grateful they should be about what they have. Did I Ever Tell You How Lucky You Are is a story about a child who comes across a man singing a song about a boy named Ducky. He should deem himself quite lucky because some people are much more, oh ever so much more, oh muchly much more unlucky than you. Then he proceeds to tell a story of unfortunate events that happen to people. As a last farewell for his readers, Dr. Seuss wrote The Places You'll Go, a story telling children they can do big things if they put their mind to it. He writes, "Congratulations, today is your day. You're off to great places. You're off and away." He also writes that bad things can happen in your life. He says, "I'm sorry to say, but sadly it's true, that bang-ups and hang-ups can happen to you." He writes, "Somehow you'll escape all that waiting and staying. You'll find the bright places where boom bands are playing." He goes on to close the book with, "So be your name Bixbaum, Bixby, or Bray, or Mordecai, Ali, Van Allen, O'Shea. You're off to great places. Today is your day. Your mountain is waiting. So get on your way." So how does this relate to the theme? Well, I'll tell you. Reading Dr. Seuss books helps children get a better understanding of themselves and the world around them. Also helps them to understand Dr. Seuss better because they read his books, which are an extension of his opinions and views on heavy political issues.